Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. And today we'll compare two stories. She messaged her, "Pay me $25,000 or I'll take you to court." She replied, "Okay." She tried to sue her for defamation, but instead ended up signing the paperwork that made her the owner of her bar. And in the second case, sometimes the police take the wrong side because of relatives, and it's bad when that relative is crazy Karen. And that's how today's story begins. I hope you'll tell me which one is better, and let's get started. You will give up your own hand-dug lake to the Homeowners Association. I'm standing on the shoreline, rod in hand, watching the water ripple like glass. Water I spent 12 years building, when two county deputies walk up with the HOA president right behind them, clutching a folder like it's a badge. "Sir," the first deputy says, "put the rod down and step away from the water." My stomach drops. Are you kidding? This is my land, my lake. I live here. The HOA president doesn't even let him answer. She flips open her folder and shoves a laminated map forward. "Officer, this is the HOA pond recreation area," she says, sharp and smug. "He's been harassing residents and blocking access to common property. I want him arrested for trespassing." I look at the deputy and see that little flicker of uncertainty because on his side it's just another call, another argument, another person insisting they're right, and on her side, she's confident like she already owns the outcome. But this lake isn't some random pond a developer dug for decoration. It's my dream. When I was a kid, my grandpa used to take me fishing in an old farm pond. Nothing fancy, mud, mosquitoes, a crooked dock, but I remember how quiet the world got when the line hit the water. That piece stuck with me. Years later, after work, bills, stress, all the normal adult noise, I still had the same stubborn thought. One day, I'd have my own lake. Not a pool, not a fountain, a real little ecosystem I could build and protect. That's why I bought land in rural Oklahoma. 12 acres, cheap, quiet, no HOA, no covenants, no community standards. But I didn't buy it on a whim. I checked the groundwater, paid for inspections, talked to locals who actually knew what held water and what didn't. The guy I hired to test the soil shrugged and said, "If you want a pond, you found the right spot." So I bought it properly. Deed recorded, boundaries clear, county records clean. Then I started digging. Neighbors laughed at first. "You building a bunker?" one guy joked. "No," I said, "a lake." It took years. I shaped the basin, sloped the banks, let the earth settle, let the water fill naturally. I planted reeds and native shoreline plants. I learned the hard way how easy it is to wreck the balance and how long it takes to fix it. Frogs showed up, then turtles, then birds. I introduced fish in stages, watching the ecosystem stabilize like it was a living thing. Because it was. Over time, it became the center of my life. Friends came out to grill, kids learned to cast lines. I'd sit alone on the bank after a long week and feel the noise drain out of my head. It was my peace, on my land, built by my hands. Then the subdivision arrived. A developer bought farmland nearby and started building identical houses and neat lawns, and eventually a fancy entrance sign went up along with the thing that always follows, an HOA. The developer tried to buy my land. Polite offers, bigger offers, final offers. I said no every time, so they built around me instead. My property ended up like an island along the edge of their neighborhood. Close enough for everyone to see my lake, but still separate. I never joined the HOA. I never signed anything. I didn't owe them dues, rules, or a single ounce of obedience. At first, it was fine. The early residents understood. That lake wasn't theirs. A few even asked permission. Then those people moved away and the new ones moved in. The new ones saw water and assumed it came with their mortgage. The first time I caught someone, it was a family picnicking on my shoreline. Blanket, cooler, kids throwing rocks into my water like it was a public park. "Hey," I said, calm, "I'm sorry, but this is private property. You need to leave." The dad stared at me like I was trying to scam him. "Private? No, this is the HOA pond. It's on the community map." "It's not," I said. "It's mine." They left angry, promising to complain. After that, it became a pattern. Teenagers showed up to swim. Dog walkers wandered through my fields. People arrived with fishing gear and acted offended when I told them no. Every time, the HOA said this is common area. So I went to an HOA meeting to figure out what was happening. I sit in the back while they argue about fence colors and parking like it's national security. Then the HOA president, mid-50s, cold voice, the kind of person who enjoys being in charge, says, "Next item, the ongoing issue with the resident near the pond recreation area. He continues to claim our pond is his private property and harass residents." I stand up. "That resident is me, and it isn't your pond. It's my land." The room buzzes. She looks at me like I'm a child interrupting adults. "And you are?" "The owner," I say. "I have the deed, county records, a licensed survey if you want it. Your residents are trespassing." She smiles, condescending. "Our documentation clearly shows the pond is HOA common area." "Your documentation is wrong," I say. "A map doesn't override a deed." She flicks her hand like she's swatting a fly. "Our attorney reviewed it. This discussion is over." That's when I realized this wasn't ignorance, it was arrogance. The next morning, I went to the county recorder's office and pulled everything. My ownership was clean and unbroken. No sale, no transfer, nothing. But the HOA's glossy map included my lake labeled Pond Recreation Area. Either somebody made a mistake or someone drew my property into their boundary on purpose because it looked good for sales. I hired a real estate attorney. She looked at the paperwork and said, "You're solid, but they'll fight because they've already told residents it's theirs. Let's lock this down." We ordered a licensed survey. The surveyor walked my property with GPS markers and produced a clean map. The lake was entirely on my parcel. My attorney sent the HOA a certified letter with the deed, the survey, and a demand to stop claiming ownership and to notify residents the lake was private. Their attorney replied 2 weeks later with a rejection, questioning my survey, warning me not to interfere with residents' access. My attorney grinned. "Great, they're putting the lies in writing." Then came the first police call. A woman called 911 and claimed I was threatening families and blocking access to HOA property. A deputy arrived, listened to their story, then asked me, "Do you have proof you own this land?" I walked inside, grabbed my folder, and handed him my deed and survey. He flipped through it and frowned. "This looks legitimate, and this survey shows the lake is on your property." The woman lunged for the paper. "That's fake," the HOA president said. "Ma'am," the deputy snapped, pulling it back. "Step away. You are on private property. You need to leave." They left, furious, like I'd robbed them. That should have been the end. It wasn't. The HOA sent a landscaping crew with a work order to maintain the pond common area. The foreman started unloading equipment on my land. I walked up. "Stop. This is private property." He showed me the work order. "HOA says this is common." I showed him the survey. He stared, then made a phone call. I could hear the HOA president yelling through the speaker. He sighed, hung up, and said, "Yeah, I'm not mowing someone else's property. We're leaving." Then she announced Community Lake Day in the neighborhood group. Saturday at 10, bring kids, chairs, fishing gear. So I set up cameras, more signs, boundary stakes. I wanted proof, not drama. Saturday morning, about 20 people showed up, and leading them, of course, was the HOA president herself, marching onto my land like she owned it. I stepped in front of them. "Stop, this is private property." She lifted her folder. "Board vote, this is community property. You've been harassing residents." "You've received my deed and my licensed survey," I said. "You know this is false." "Our attorney says..." "Your attorney says whatever you pay him to say," I cut in. "Leave, now." A guy in the back shouted, "We pay dues, it's ours." I looked at the group and realized what the developer had done, sold them a fantasy, and the HOA chose me as the villain. "I'm calling the police," I said. She smiled. "Do it. I want you arrested." While we waited, they set up chairs on my shoreline like it was a park. Kids ran around. Someone cast a line into my water. 2 deputies arrived. One recognized me from the previous call and looked tired, like he'd just walked into the same mess again. The HOA president marched up with her map. "Officers, here's the official HOA documentation. He's trespassing on HOA property. Arrest him." And that's when I felt that same cold fear again, because it would have been so easy for them to get it wrong. So I stayed calm. My deed and license survey are in my house. Also, my attorney has filed suit against this HOA for trespass and slander of title. Her face twitched. "Why?" I looked at the deputy. "Do you want to see the documents right now?" We went inside. I laid out the deed, the survey, the county records, the HOA emails encouraging residents to use their lake, the certified letters, all of it. The deputy read quietly, then exhaled. Back outside, he didn't hesitate. "Ma'am, these documents appear legitimate. This lake is on his property. Everyone needs to leave immediately." She snapped. "We are not leaving." The second deputy stepped forward. "Ma'am, if you refuse to leave private property, you will be arrested for trespassing." She went pale. The crowd suddenly remembered they had places to be. Chairs folded, coolers grabbed, lines reeled in. As she walked past me, she hissed, "This isn't over." And in that moment, I knew it was. She'd pushed too far, too many times, with too much paper and too little truth. The HOA tried one last stunt. They countersued and demanded back dues for years I'd supposedly been occupying HOA property. My attorney's reaction was a single sentence, "Perfect." During discovery, we got the developer's records. Early plans clearly marked my parcel as excluded private property because they never bought it. Later marketing maps magically included my lake as an amenity. Translation, they used my lake to sell houses. And the HOA president knew. Board messages made it clear they believed if they pressured me long enough, I'd give up or sell. Then things got ugly in a way that stopped being funny. One evening, a pickup rolled into my driveway. Two men stepped out, drunk, loud, aggressive. One was the HOA president's husband. The other was his brother. They were shouting about teaching me a lesson. I called 911. Then I stepped onto my porch with my shotgun pointed at the ground. No threats, no aiming, no moving toward them. Just a hard line they weren't expecting. They froze. All that bravado evaporated. They turned and ran back to their truck, peeled out, and disappeared. And if this were a video, this is where the narrator would cut in once, right at the peak. At that point, it stopped being an HOA dispute. This wasn't about maps or paperwork anymore. This was intimidation, and they had crossed a line they couldn't uncross. I filed a report for threats and harassment, another official record, another brick in the wall. In court, their attorney tried to argue the HOA's internal maps reflected true ownership. The judge looked at him like he'd suggested water rights came from a brochure. My attorney laid it out clean. Deed, chain of title, county records, license survey, HOA emails, repeated trespassing, work orders, police calls, and the developer's own documents showing my land excluded until they decided to redraw it for sales. The ruling was decisive. The lake was mine. The land was mine. The HOA had no right of access. They were ordered to pay damages, cover my legal fees, and pay punitive damages for continuing in bad faith after being shown proof. They had to send a formal retraction to residents stating the land was private property and update their maps. The HOA president resigned the day after the judgment. A few months later, she sold her house. Word around the neighborhood was they couldn't handle the legal costs and the fallout. And me? The next weekend, I walked down to the water at sunrise with my rod and my old folding chair. No crowds, no shouting, no HOA emails, no flashing lights, just quiet. HOA paperwork is just rules for its members, not a crown that gives them the right to steal what isn't theirs. It only applies to people who voluntarily signed those covenants and agreed to live by them. The moment an HOA tries to place its internal maps and board votes above a deed and county law, it stops being community management and turns into plain old land grabbing. And our next story. Want to sue me? Now I'm the owner of your bar. I live in a country with some of the strictest libel laws you can imagine. Here, it doesn't matter whether something's true or false. If you say something negative about someone and it costs them money, they can sue you, and they will win. People get taken to court over this all the time. It's one of those laws everyone complains about, but nobody manages to change. To give you an idea of how ridiculous it is, here's a common example people use. If a man's cheating on his wife and I tell his boss, this man is cheating on his wife, and the boss fires him, that man can sue me. Not because I lied, not because I invented anything, but because my words caused him financial harm, even though it was true. I understand the logic when it's a lie, but when it's the truth, it still makes no sense to me. But that's the law where I live, and you ignore it at your own risk. I own a bar. It's been my pride for years. I built it slowly, carefully, and I run it properly. I'm there almost every day, checking on staff, talking to customers, making sure everything runs smoothly. I host events, live music nights, themed parties. I believe if you take care of people, they come back, and they did. My bar became very successful. About 2 years ago, I moved the bar to a better location, bigger space, better foot traffic, more visibility. It was stressful and expensive, but worth it. Business exploded almost immediately. That's when the problem started. Across the street from my new location was another bar owned by a woman I'd never spoken to. I barely knew what she looked like. I was busy running my business, raising my kids, and working my regular job on top of everything. I didn't have time for drama. A few weeks after opening, I started hearing strange things. Customers would casually say things like, "Wow, that woman across the street really hates you," or "She says you're trying to ruin her." I ignored it at first. People talk, bars compete. I assumed it would blow over. Then one day I received a message from her, directly. She accused me of telling people that she hired illegal workers. She accused me of spreading rumors that she was running prostitution out of her bar. She accused me of telling suppliers she was ripping customers off. I stared at my phone in disbelief. I didn't even know this woman. I'd never spoken about her to anyone. I had never stepped foot in her bar. I didn't have time to spread rumors even if I wanted to. I replied politely and told her I had no idea what she was talking about. Her response came fast and aggressive. "If you don't pay me $25,000, I will sue you." That message made my stomach drop. She explained that if she took me to court for defamation, even if I didn't say anything, the legal costs alone would destroy me. She told me $25,000 was a favor because it was less than what the court would make me pay. I was furious, shaking. I hadn't done anything wrong, yet here I was being threatened because of a law I hated but had to respect. My boyfriend, who's American, kept telling me, "This doesn't sound right. You need a lawyer." I didn't want to. I just wanted peace. I wanted to run my bar, take care of my family, and not deal with someone else's bitterness. But she didn't stop. She kept texting me, demanding money, telling me I was ruining her life, warning me I was running out of time. After weeks of stress and sleepless nights, I went to a lawyer. The lawyer listened quietly as I explained everything. When I finished, he leaned back and said something I didn't expect. "You can sue her." I blinked. "For what? She's the one threatening me." "For blackmail," he said calmly, "and she can sue you for defamation if she wants." I told him again very clearly, I didn't say anything about her, good or bad. I don't know her. He nodded. "Then she has a problem. She has to prove you said something. If she can't prove it, she loses. But you can prove she tried to extort money from you." He explained it slowly so I understood. If she truly believed I was defaming her, the legal path was to sue me, not to demand money privately. What she was doing was illegal, so I sued her. What followed was one of the most stressful periods of my life. The case dragged on for over a year. Endless paperwork, meetings, emails, waiting, delays. I was exhausted. There were days I wanted to drop everything just to make it stop. The only thing that kept me going was my kids. They grounded me when everything felt overwhelming. Finally, the court date came. We stood in front of the judge, and she told her story. She claimed I had destroyed her reputation, that I spread lies, that her business was failing because of me. The judge asked her one simple question: "Do you have proof that he said these things?" She didn't. No messages, no witnesses, no recordings, nothing. The judge turned to me and asked me the same question. My lawyer presented her threatening messages, clearly demanding money in exchange for silence. The judge's expression changed. He ruled that she failed to prove defamation. She received nothing. Then he turned to me. He asked for documentation of my legal fees. I had them ready. My lawyer was expensive, and I had every invoice. He asked how much my business made in a year. I provided records. The judge nodded and made his decision. He ordered her to pay 10% of my annual income as damages for blackmail. 10%. It was far more than $25,000. She went pale. She didn't have that kind of money. To pay the judgment, she had to sell her bar. Here's where life added its own twist. She couldn't sell it. Nobody wanted to buy her bar because everyone believed my bar had already put hers out of business. The offers she got were insultingly low. Not enough to pay me, not enough to start over. Eventually, she came to me. We sat across from each other, and for the first time, she wasn't angry, she was desperate. I made her an offer. She could give me her bar, and we would consider the debt settled. I'd also pay her a small amount every month as rent for a while so she wouldn't be left with nothing. She didn't want to accept, but she had no choice. In my country, if a judge orders you to pay and you don't, jail is a real possibility. So I took her bar. I converted it into a restaurant. It's doing well. Now I own a successful bar and a successful restaurant right across the street from each other. The woman who tried to extort me is gone. Her anger, her threats, her bitterness, all gone. The 18 months of stress were awful. I never wanted this fight. I never understood why she started it. But in the end, the law she tried to use against me became the thing that destroyed her. And I sleep very well knowing I didn't start it, but I absolutely finished it. She tried to scare you into paying by threatening to sue you for libel, but those same courts ended up taking her business instead. That's not a clever plan on your part, it's just how things go when someone thinks bullying is a way to get what they want. The fact that she couldn't back up her claims says it all. No proof, no messages, and no witnesses, just anger and a sense of entitlement, which doesn't make sense when you look at it closely. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.